Mental health.
Mental health on college campuses.
Mental health awareness.
Mental health on college campuses.
Mental health and college students.
Our overall topic is social anxiety in the classroom. So it's like what professors are doing to accommodate to socially anxious students. So it's like, how do they notice these people? How are they different from people who are like shy, or just people who are just in the background?
And our group specifically focused on the working college student and the effects that working and school has on their overall mental health, and kind of like the solutions they can have to try and counteract those mental health illnesses, and how they can, try to help themselves get through school and not have all that stress on their own hands.
We did the stigma of mental health amongst people of color with specifically anxiety and depression.
For our project, we focused on food insecurity on college campuses and how that impacts the mental health of college students.
Sleep deprivation in college students and how it affects mental health.
And our group decided to focus on dyslexia and students with dyslexia and how that affected their mental health.
We focused on social media's effect on people's mental health, specifically on how they used memes to cope in an ever-changing world.
I think we chose this topic because we all work, we all go to school, whether it's full-time or part-time, it resonates with us personally.
Food is just really expensive on college campuses, and I think it's a relatable topic for people trying to pay for food on college.
Our group decided to focus on dyslexia because actually I have a friend that had dyslexia, and that's where it stemmed from. I knew that they struggle with it, and I always wanted to see how students still did the same amount of work that we did, even though they had learning deficiencies or disabilities.
We chose to focus on mental health memes just because when we were talking about mental health on college campuses, the first thing that came to mind was all these memes that I see about it all the time, because, seeing that on my feeds so often just sort of reminded me about how prevalent mental health problems are in college campuses.
I chose to do it because sleep just is an interesting topic, and I feel like it's not as sensitive as the other topics, so it could be a little lighter and people are more willing to talk.
Yeah, kind of similar to that. I kind of felt like, all the other ones, not necessarily, they don't affect everyone. I feel like sleep, everybody needs sleep, so it almost affects just about everyone. So I thought that was a big use for it.
Not a lot of people feel like they have an open space to talk about their mental health, and specifically people of color, because of their cultural backgrounds and how they were brought up. It's something that's not really talked about.
Well, we both have social anxiety, so yeah, and we've had classes together before, and we know how awkward it was for us to be in a classroom where participation points are really important, and we were just kind of curious if anyone else ever goes through that, and so I guess just diving more into a topic that we already experience on a daily basis.
It's important because everybody, he was saying about sleep, everybody is affected by their mental health, whether it's good mental health, bad mental health. Everyone has something.
18 to 20, which is college age, is the average age for onset for mental illnesses, and people are coming here into college, and it's a new experience, and it's new territory, and they're possibly experiencing all these symptoms of mental illness.
It's everywhere. It's affecting everyone, even if you don't see it.
We all suffer.
It's like a taboo. There's a stigma around mental health in general, and also in college campuses, because when people think of mental health, they just think something's wrong with that person, or someone's crazy. So I guess talking more about it brings more awareness that no, it's not crazy. It's just everyone suffers from this, and everyone is gonna talk about it because it's normal.
It affects everyone.
It impacts all aspects of your life.
Like I said, because a lot of people deal with it. Everybody else has something going on. Everyone has their own story. So I think it's important that we spread the word on all that.
Oh, because if you don't get enough sleep, it'll destroy your mental health.
If you aren't eating, then you can't go about your day to day. You are tired, you become insecure with weight gain or weight loss. Your metabolism slows down. All of these things impact your mental health and your ability to function in your day-to-day life.
It's a silent disorder. People don't even know it exists. They just think you're shy, or you might just be lazy, or just flat out rude.
I'd say it's probably the most common expression of mental health, that at least that we see online. I mean, you're seeing mental health memes half the time and people don't understand. Like when I was interviewing people for the podcast portion, they would be like, no, what's that? And then I'd read them. They'd be like, oh yeah, I see that every day.
Dyslexia is important to identify and to talk about when it comes to mental health, because a lot of people struggle with it and it's kind of invisible, as a lot of our people we interviewed talked about. So it's important to know that people are struggling with this in silence, and it is affecting their mental health.
This topic is important because I feel like students of color don't get a lot of light shed on their mental health, and they kind of go through it differently.
Not a lot of people talk about it. They kind of like, oh, your parents are like, oh, you have to work to make sure you have money to do this and that and whatever. But a lot of people don't really talk about the added stress that puts on taking a 15 credit course load and the kind of effect that has on a student.
Learning about how, you can't just make up for sleep in like a day or a weekend. I feel like I didn't never realize, that it is long term, and it does have long term effects, and it can lead to, things like cancer. Like I thought that was like shocking. I was like, oh, you just make up sleep the next day. Oh, well, who cares?
Was probably like interviewing the sources, just because you kind of like talk to these people you probably never talked to before.
How people cope with mental health, which was a combination of combining their cultures, what they're used to from the different countries, and then taking the westernized methods with like counseling and therapy and kind of finding that balance between the two. So basically taking non-traditional coping mechanisms with traditional coping mechanisms. So like we had one girl and she liked to do art.
I enjoy listening to people's stories, especially Billy, who was like our main person. I got to see success of students who struggle with dyslexia, and so that was really interesting to me. It was showing people how prevalent the sort of humor is, like absurdist or gallows humor, even nihilist humor. I think that people didn't think about the sort of humor that they're using and what that can imply. So I thought it was really interesting to like get into depth about that.
Food insecurity and how like it's much bigger than I think people even realize, and that a lot of other colleges are also struggling with this issue.
Yeah, I think it's like hearing the professor's perspective, because there is like one professor who told us what he's doing, and then the other professors told us what he's doing, which is like I guess a good and bad example sort of thing. So we kind of got both perspective and see how that works around this campus.
I read like some things just for like high school, which we didn't really cover, that like they pushed start times back and like it increased like attendance and GPA, and we didn't really touch on that with colleges. So I kind of, if I did continue this, that might be like an interesting thing to tackle. So
what are other colleges doing, even besides the ones that we've looked at? And like how can that be applied to Towson, like rather than just like food pantries?
I still wonder if people just say they'll make solutions or make more counselors available for people of color just because they were in a moment of an interview, or if they'll actually like do it. Because I know it's easy to say like, oh yeah, we're going to do this to help, but like, will you actually do it? So I guess one of my questions would just be that.
I mean, for me personally, I'd say the impact that they have, whether it can be like a solid coping mechanism, and if it is in the short term, whether it is in the long run. And I think a lot of that's kind of unsolvable because it's different case by case.
But is there really a real solution or answer to ending mental health?
My question is there actually one solution? And I guess maybe there isn't one solution for anything.
My biggest question is just how can more resources be made available to these students, and what else is out there, because it was really difficult for us to find those resources ourselves.